Hello and welcome to another video where today's topic is teenagers. In a nutshell, that's what today's video is. If you see me looking over here, it's because I have a script for basic purposes, because if I don't, I'm not gonna know like what order I need to talk about things in, so yeah, just don't worry about that. So today's topic, I will be focusing on the 2003 movie called 13. So I know very little about the actors and who made it, but I do know that it was made by a teenager, I do believe, two teenagers, Nikki Reed and I forgot the other one. Her name's like Evan something something. I forgot her name. I'm sorry. Both did a great job in the movie, by the way. Like, it is such a good movie. But yeah, because it was made by a teenager, I do believe it's like a really good representation of what teenage life was like. And granted, it is set in 2003, which is a very different time to now, but there are still some things that are still relevant and that I think teenagers still need to see and be aware of, because being a teenager sucks. That's just it. You know, I'm a teenager. It's not fun at all. Okay, so I will be doing a recap on the movie, and if you haven't seen it but want to watch it, at the time of filming, it is on Netflix, and hopefully will still be on Netflix by the time this is up. So if you want to go watch that first and come back, that's cool. Or if you have already seen it, or you just like don't want to watch the recap or whatever, you can skip ahead. But before you do anything, quick trigger warning for drug use, self-harm, and eating disorders. If any of those topics like are triggering for you or make you uncomfortable, I would not recommend watching this video. It's probably not for you. With all of that being said, let's get into 13. Alright, so the movie starts off with some very cool rock music, and our main protagonist of the movie, Tracy. I did forget her last name, and I'm not bothered to go back and write it down, even though I was writing the script while I was watching the movie, and I'm pretty sure it was said like 2 or 3 times, and I just didn't, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention, I guess, but anyway. So, her and her best friend Evie, who I like to consider to be the antagonist of this movie, they are in Tracy's room, and they are crazy high. And they start telling each other, like, yo, hit me! So they start hitting each other, which results in Tracy getting a busted lip, and Evie getting, like, a gash on her forehead because of Tracy's ring. After this scene, the movie takes us back to 4 months prior, where we see Tracy walking her dog, coming back home with her friend, Noelle. Noelle's a pretty unimportant character. She, like, really only comes back up in the movie, like, once, maybe twice, but like not really, so just forget about her. Once Tracy arrives home, we see her mother, Mel, stomping out a cigarette and taking the like stomped out bit and shoving it in her pocket because she's trying to hide from Tracy that she's smoking. She's kind of bad at hiding it because it is said later in the movie that Tracy is aware that her mother smokes, and maybe why Tracy started smoking herself. After this scene, it cuts to school, where Tracy and her friend Noelle are walking around, and they get called some pretty rude words by people, which I think is kind of funny, because like, just kids are just so rude for no reason. But she comes up to her brother Mason and his friends, where they are hyping up one of them about a new haircut he got, and let me tell you, it is horrendous. Maybe it was the thing in 2003, but if anyone got that haircut now, they would get absolutely flamed for it. This scene is where we are first introduced to Evie Zamora, who, like I mentioned earlier, is I consider to be the main protagonist of this movie. Mason and his friends comment how Evie kind of got like hotter over the summer, and they're like thirsting over her, like practically drooling over themselves about her. And, you know, being the cool, popular girl that she is, she ignores them and just walks away with her friends. They were all wearing like the trendy low-rise jeans with the thick belts and like cool tops and stuff, and yeah, it's very 2000s. But as the boys are checking out Evie, we can clearly see that Tracy is jealous, which kind of is like pretty obvious that things are gonna go down. And things go down hard. Oh, hi, baby. I have a kitty here with me. Hello. After the school scene, we see Mel giving a haircut to some little boy who I guess is a frequent client, I'm assuming, because she seems to have a pretty good relationship with the mom or whatever, and she even gives them like free lasagna, so that's cool. But here we learn that Mel is struggling financially, and this becomes a pretty big issue like throughout the movie, and is kind of part of the reason why Tracy starts acting out, but there's a lot of factors that play into that, which I will explain later on. I also wanted to point out that the actor for Mel is the same actor for Elastigirl and The Incredibles, which I find crazy that she went from this insane movie to The Incredibles, but that's just a little observation I made, so yeah, ignore that. So after the clients leave, we learn that Mel and Tracy's father are divorced, and the father is late on child support, which makes Tracy upset, but Mason just kind of tells her to leave it be because he just started a new job. And because of this, because of this moment, a lot of other moments, I kind of like was not a huge fan of Mason's character, but shout out to his actor though, because like, you know, they're a good actor when like you dislike the character, like top tier acting. Honestly, all the actors in this movie are just like so good, like for a movie of its time and considered it was written by teenagers, it's really good. So later, these two people show up. I don't really remember their names, but I guess they come by frequently because they're good friends, and Tracy, I guess, babysits the little girl. Yeah, it's a mother and a daughter. The little girl's, like, pretty young. So Mel and the random lady, because I don't ever know if her name is said. Maybe it is, and I just didn't pay attention, but I never caught her movie. I mean, I never caught her name. So the two of them leave to go to a meeting, and I don't think it's ever stated what the meetings are for. Like, I've seen the movie like 5 times, like, consecutively, and like, I don't think it's ever like explained what the meetings are for, which I find really weird. So, yeah. So the next day is a pretty important scene. It starts with Tracy at lunch talking to her friends, and she goes to throw some trash away, and this is when some popular cool girls make fun of her socks. This upsets Tracy, and when she gets home, she starts like throwing her stuffed animals on the floor and like throws her socks in the trash, and her mom walks in with some food, and she comments how she's glad that Tracy's finally cleaning her room, which I found weird because like in the shots we see of her room, it doesn't look that dirty, and if anything, her throwing her stuffed animals on the floor is only making it more dirty. But okay. But Tracy comes playing the words, Lucian words. Tracy complains to Mel that she needs new clothes, so Mel takes her out and gets her some new clothes. So the next day during lunch, Tracy gets up and follows Evie. They exchange compliments, and then we get shots of like the camera like comparing their outfits almost. And like, I don't know why, but just the way they shot it is so funny to me. Like I don't know. Anyway, so Evie gives Tracy her number and tells her to call her after school so they can go shopping, and this obviously makes Tracy very excited. I also wanted to point out that at the beginning of the scene before Tracy gets up to follow Evie, her 2 friends, Noelle, and I don't think the other one was given a name, so she's just friend number 2. We're talking about what they're gonna do for their project, and they're discussing like what music artists are gonna do. One of them says they're gonna do J-Lo, and the other one says they're gonna do Usher, which I just find humorous because like it's so 2000s. Everything about this movie is so 2000s, and I know it's a 2000s movie, but it's just I don't know. So when Tracy gets home, she calls Evie and she gets no answer, which makes her very upset. She goes to smoke a cigarette, and I believe this is because she's aware that her mom smokes and she wants to feel more grown up, or she just wants to seem cool. It could be both, could be one, could be either. I don't know. Maybe she just does it just because. I don't know. Either way, smoking is not cool. Don't do it. So anyway, Tracy decides to go out on her own, and she walks into the store where she finds Evie and her friend. I think her friend's name is like Astrid or something like that. I don't know. Her character's kind of unimportant, but anyway. So the two girls, Evie and her friend, are like stealing stuff, and this makes Tracy uncomfortable. So they leave, and Evie and her friend laugh and call her a loser. And yeah, I also wanted to point out that like everything in the store is so 2000s fashion. And like, yes, I know it's a 2000s movie, but it's just funny to me. I don't know why. It's not intended to be funny at all, but it just is to me. So after Tracy leaves, she's sitting on a bench across the street from the store, and this lady sits down next to her. She's on the phone talking to some person. I don't know. The dialogue is kind of funny to me, but anyway. So Tracy like steals her wallet, and let me just say, there were so many people walking and driving by while she was doing this, and not a single person said anything about it. It's like either they just didn't notice, or they did notice and then just didn't bother to say anything about it, which or they did notice and just decided not to say anything about it, which, I mean, I don't know. It was a different time in 2003. Maybe people just didn't care about theft. I don't know. I wasn't alive. Everything in this movie that just doesn't make sense, I'm just gonna chalk it up to the fact that it was made in 2003 and it was a different time then. Oh, I definitely forgot to mention this, but before Tracy leaves to go shopping, her brother walks in with this other kid, Luke, who Tracy calls the lifeguard boy. It's never really stated why, but I'm assuming just because he's a lifeguard or something. I don't know. And he becomes a pretty important character later on, so like just store him in the back of your brain. Don't forget about him because he's a pretty big deal later on. Anyway, so Tracy shows Evie and her friend the wallet that she stole, and they go shopping and blow all the money because I guess there's like tons of money. So yeah, they get excited, they go and buy stuff, and Tracy comes home feeling over the moon. So when Tracy returns home, she sees her mother cooking in the kitchen, and there's 4 plates on the table, which Tracy pretty much figures out that Mel's boyfriend is coming by, which makes Tracy extremely upset, which I guess is because he's just not a good guy, and like he just kind of leaves them a while, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But he does become like an issue later on, so don't forget about him either. But he's a pretty present character though. The next day at school, Tracy is walking with Evie and ignores her 2 friends, and they are picked up by Mel, who is taking them shopping. And this is kind of where things for me get a little confusing about Evie, because she gives Mel this other lady, Brooke, who is her guardian, because I guess her mom died. I don't know what happened to her dad. I don't think it's ever said, but I'm guessing he just either left or he died too. Whatever, but I don't think he's really ever mentioned in the movie. But anyway. And so Evie's story just kind of gets a little confusing because as we see throughout the movie, she tells Mel all these bad things about Brooke and her boyfriend and all this stuff. But like, when we see Brooke, it's like she's like extremely chill and stuff, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense now. I'll talk about it later when we actually meet Brooke, but just keep in mind that Evie's story is a little confusing, at least to me. While they're out shopping, Tracy does show off these like cute pair of jeans that have like leopard print on them, and like she really likes them, but they're expensive, so Mel tells her no. And this does come back later, so like don't forget about it. Once the 2 get home, they're sitting outside with Mason and his friends, and Tracy's friend Noelle comes over because I think she lives like across the street or like a few houses down or something, and they blow her off to go hang out, or actually no, sorry, they blow her off to go, Tracy tags along with Evie to go sell drugs, and they are extremely late and Mason has to go fetch them. And when they get home, it's extremely obvious that the two of them are like high and like drunk, but like Mel just kind of doesn't really say anything about it, which is an ongoing theme throughout the movie. So yeah, but yeah, so Tracy pretty much starts living with Tracy and her family because of her life at home, and this starts a lot of problems, as we will see. So a little later, I'm already messing up my sentence. A little later, Tracy sees Mel and her boyfriend making out in the living room, and this sends Tracy into a flashback, and I'm not 100% sure what's going on, but it pretty much looks like that the boyfriend, actually I think his name's like Brady or something, it looks like he's just getting like insanely high, and he like, I don't know, like passes out or like collapses or something. Like Tracy sees it happen, and then like her and her mom are like freaking out or something. So yeah, he's a drug addict, I guess. I don't know. But after the flashback, Tracy gets upset and she goes into the bathroom, and this is where we see that she self-harms. And while it's not directly shown, or while it doesn't directly show her doing it, it's like implied that she does. And I would just like to say self-harm was not in the warnings for this movie, and it caught me so off guard. Because we actually do like see her doing it in like 2 other scenes later in the movie, and it's just like it caught me so off guard. Anyway, so the next morning, Evie and Tracy are outside where Evie flashes Mason, and I think this is pretty much when Mason kind of starts to realize that like Tracy has a lot of issues, and he kind of like stops liking her, because I don't remember if I already mentioned this or not, but like Mason has like a fat crush on her at the beginning, but throughout the movie we can definitely see that he starts to lose that crush when he realizes how awful she is and how bad of an influence she is on Tracy. In the next scene, we get a super cool and infamous shot of the 3 girls, Evie, Tracy, and Evie's friend, who I still don't remember what her name is, walking down the hallway. You know, Tracy's like one of the cool girls now. She's pretty, she's popular, you know, the cool girls like her. And yeah, so that pretty much just sets in place her status in the school. Afterwards, Evie and Tracy go shopping, and they go to a tattoo shop where Evie seduces the worker into getting a tongue piercing super cheap for Tracy. And I would just like to say that worker was so weird, because before he did it, Tracy asked him if it was gonna hurt, and then she saw that he didn't have his tongue pierced, and she was just like, oh, okay, never mind. And then he said that he does, but he only puts it in when he needs it, and then makes like a really weird tongue movement at her. And like, I will say in his defense, Evie did tell him that Tracy was 18, so he doesn't know that she's underage, but it's still just an uncomfortable thing to watch. But anyway, so later when they get home, Mel makes a comment that Tracy needs to eat something, and she says that she does, or that she will, but I don't think she ever really does. And this is where I would like to point out that I think Tracy is developing an eating disorder, and I don't think it's ever really like said if she does or not, but just because like there are a couple of times throughout the movie where she just like refuses to eat anything, and even later like yells at Mel to like stop nagging her about eating all the time. So I think that she's developing eating disorder either due to the drugs, or she just wants to stay skinny and popular. Whatever the reason may be, I think she's developing an eating disorder. So a little bit later, Tracy finds Mel's boyfriend's clothes and gets like super mad, because I guess Mel like promised her that like she wouldn't like sleep with him or something along those lines. And Mel kind of is like, I never said that. And then she gets like distracted taking care of a client. So I pretty much put an end to that argument. Yeah, there's a lot of arguments that happen between Tracy and Mel throughout this movie, which I think just kind of shows how damaging all these bad things like smoking, drugs, alcohol, that stuff can be towards your relationships, especially when you're that young. Like, keep in mind, they are only 13. Like, this whole situation is just insane. So in the next scene, Mel is smoking a cigarette when Evie comes in, and Mel tells her, like, don't ever start smoking, honey. But we already know it's too late for that. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted because, like, one of the cats, Perry, is laying, like, behind my ring light. He just looks so cute right now. Anyway, and this is where Tracy tells Mel, or Evie tells Mel, sorry, I'm getting my names mixed up. Evie tells Mel that Brooke's boyfriend hits her, and this pretty much convinces Mel to let Evie keep staying with them. And I have to say, I feel so bad for Mel. This poor woman. And then we next learn that Tracy's dad was supposed to take her and Mason, but he has to switch plans last minute for, like, work stuff, so that makes Tracy super upset. Later in the day, Evie shows, oh my god, names, get them in check. Tracy shows Evie that she stole a belly button ring from the tattoo shop, and Evie helps her pierce her belly button. And after that, Mel comes into Tracy's room to show her that she sewed some leopard fur onto a pair of jeans to look like the pair of jeans that Tracy wanted from the shop the other day. And instead of just being happy and grateful, she gets super upset, saying that the fur isn't the same, and Mel shouldn't have gone into her room and taken her jeans without asking, and all this other stuff. And, like, Tracy honestly makes me so mad, I'm not even kidding. Anyway, after Mel leaves, Evie sneaks out to go hang out with this guy, and this is when Tracy goes into the bathroom and self-harms again, and this is where we see her actually doing it, and it's a hard watch. It is. But a little bit later, Tracy is, like, asleep, and Evie comes back, and she sees the blood stain on the sleeve of Tracy's shirt, and this is very important, so this does come back hard at the end of the movie, so remember that. So, in the morning, Mel tells Tracy to eat some oatmeal. Tracy's like, nah, I'm on a diet, which, again, another reason why I think she's developing an eating disorder, because throughout the movie she just, like, refuses to eat anything. So, a few minutes later, Mel asks Tracy in private if Brooke has a boyfriend, and Tracy says no, and this is where Evie is caught up in her first lie, and we see throughout the movie that Evie is kind of a pathological liar, which comes back, again, pretty dang hard at the end of the movie. So at school, Tracy gets asked out by a guy, and he asks for her number, but Evie butts in and gives him her number instead because they will be hanging around. Which, her giving him her number becomes an issue later on, so remember that too. There's kind of a lot of stuff that, like, come back around in this movie, so, like, a lot of things that you probably think are unimportant are actually a little important. Anyway, once Evie and Tracy get home, they actually go to Evie's place this time, where we meet Brooke for the first time, and she's, like, really chill. Like, she lets them have, like, beer and stuff, and she says they can only have one because they have homework, which kind of makes me think, like, does she let them have more on, like, the weekends or something when they don't have homework? Like, a very chill mom. But anyway, or actually, she's not actually their mom. But, yeah, just extremely weird stuff, but, maybe it was normal in 2003. I don't know. Anyway, while they're in the room, Javi calls. That's the name of the guy. His name is Javi. He calls, and they agree to meet up. While they're there, they're, like, smoking, getting high and drunk and stuff. And Evie starts making out with this guy, which Tracy starts watching. And this is where we can kind of see how eager Tracy is to be like Evie, because she starts making out with Javi. She's, like, doing everything that Evie is doing. It's like, it's just, we see really how jealous Tracy is and how much she strives to be like Evie because she wants to be cool and popular and pretty. Which honestly describes a lot of teenage girls. So, anyway, this next scene is very important because this is when our little friend Luke comes back. I hope you did not forget about him, okay? Because I told you to remember him. While the girls are sitting outside, Mel leaves to go to the grocery store, and while they're gone, this is when Luke drives by, and Evie takes an interest, and she's like, "Oh, yo, who's that buying guy right there?" And Tracy's like, "Oh yeah, that's Luke, or lifeguard boy or whatever." So they go over, and they're getting like drunk and high at his house. And this is when Evie like starts hitting on him, which Luke initially rejects because he is like an adult. And but Evie kind of like keeps trying to hit on him, and eventually he kind of gets in and starts like making out with her. And then both girls start making out with him at the same time, so like all three of them are just kind of like going at it. And before anything too serious happens, Luke comes to his senses, kicks them out, and then he leaves himself. And when the girls go back, Mel is already back, and I would just like to point out, like, I don't know how, like, because the way they filmed it, it looked like Mel or the girls really hadn't been over there that long, so I'm kind of wondering how Mel had time to go to the grocery store, get everything she needed, pay, get it all in the car, come back home, and she's already, like, unloaded some of it by the time the girls get back. So I'm like, either they were there longer than the movie implied, or Mel is, like, the Flash. I don't know. So when they come back, Mel asks Tracy for help, and Tracy makes a comment like, "I'm not your slave, Mom." And this, like, it's Mel mad, so she follows the girls into the house while they go into the bathroom trying to, like, brush their teeth and stuff, because, they were smoking and, like, drinking and stuff. And Mel tells Tracy, like, "I raised you better than this, like, what are you doing?" And, Tracy just, I actually forgot what she said to that, but she just didn't really care. Actually, no, correction. Tracy gets mad and she yells at Mel that she wants her and her boyfriend out of her life, and they start fighting, and then the two random people from before show up. The little girl, who I think her name is Kayla, starts, like, crying, and they say that they are there to stay for a couple of days until the mom's check comes in, which I'm assuming means that she could not afford rent. Evie and Tracy begin cleaning up Tracy's room because there's, like, clothes and stuff everywhere. And Mel becomes, like, suspicious where they got all this stuff because, Mel knows that she can't afford it, and she, like, hasn't given them money to go out buying all this stuff. And the girls lie and say that Brooke bought it, but as we learn later in the movie, she did not buy it. They are stealing. And Mel kind of knows that Brooke didn't buy it because it's just obvious that they were stealing. So, yeah, but she just doesn't really say anything about it again, so... Anyway, later that night, not Tracy, oh my god, I'm struggling with these names. Mel is on the phone with somebody. I don't think it's ever really said who it is, but I don't know, she's on the phone with somebody, and she's talking about how Tracy's really starting to scare her, rightfully so, and Tracy overhears this, and she gets upset. But I would also like to say that Mel saying that she's scared of Tracy, I think is why she never really does a whole lot to try and break Tracy free of these bad habits she has. But I don't really know. I still feel like Mel should know when enough is enough, and know, like, when to get Tracy in check. Some time passes, could be a few days, could be the next day, I don't know. But Tracy, Evie, Mel, and the boyfriend, I'm just gonna call him Brady because I think that's his name. They all go out to the movies, and Mel and Brady go to a different movie than Evie and Tracy, so Evie and Tracy take this time to sneak out and meet up with a group of guys. And while Tracy is out getting sodas for the two, she comes back, and Tracy's gone. So she finds her in the back of the store. She comes out, wipes her mouth on a towel that's, like, next to, like, the doorway that they came out of, and Javi comes out behind her, and Tracy kind of knows what happened, but when she asks Evie about it later, she just kind of says that nothing really happened. But Tracy knows that something happened. Once the four of them come home, Mason says he wants to talk to Mel in private, and this is where Tracy kind of is like, she realizes that she could be in huge trouble. Because while she was getting the sodas, Mason and one of his friends come in, and Mason starts hitting on Tracy, but he doesn't know it's Tracy because she has her back facing him. And when he realizes it's her, he's like, what? You know, he's like shocked. It's like, what on earth? Because, like, you know, he sees like Tracy's wearing like a thong and like has the belly button piercing. And Tracy kind of knows that she's like cooked since he saw her. Because like she already knows he's gonna tell Mel. I think it's this moment when he sees her in the store that like he really starts to become concerned for her, which is understandable. So Tracy gets mad because she knows that that Mason's gonna rat her out. So she points out that he gets high with his friends all the time, and apparently Mel knows about this and is okay with it, which I find a little odd, but once again, it's 2003, it was a different time. So Mason comments on how huge Tracy's pupils are, and is like, you're so busted, like, you're gonna be, like, cooked. So Tracy gets mad and starts fighting him physically, and Mel and Brady have to come and break them apart, and this is when Mel asks if Tracy even had eaten anything that day, and this is when Tracy yells at her, like, stop nagging me about eating, and this makes Mel mad, and she's just like, fine, like, I'm not gonna cook for you anymore, and she goes in the kitchen and starts, like, throwing food around and, like, tearing up the floor and stuff. In Tracy's room, Tracy sees the little girl Kayla and the dog sleeping in her bed, and she gets mad and yells for Mel to come take care of it, but Brady comes instead, and he's trying to take care of it for her, and tells Tracy that she needs to, like, lay off Mel. And Tracy's all like, don't you tell me what to do, like, you cokehead. And this makes Brady upset, so he leaves. While Mel is in the shower, Brady starts packing up his stuff to leave, and so Mel's just kind of like, okay, bye, go say hi to this other person, I don't know who it is. And yeah, so Brady leaves, and in Tracy's room, while her and Evie are snorting some drugs, Tracy sees Brady leave. The next morning, one of Mel's clients is there, and she's trying to tell Evie that she needs to leave because the family needs a load time, and Evie's like, no, I'm not leaving, like, I'm trying to make this better for y'all, which is obviously a big fat lie, because all she has done since she's came here has caused problems. But everyone is aware of that except for Tracy, because she's completely oblivious because she is so caught up in being cool and popular. Anyway, Tracy's dad comes by later trying to talk to her, but then he has to leave for work stuff, and Tracy is obviously very upset about this. And a little bit later, her and Evie go to talk to Mel and ask her to adopt Evie because Tracy says that she would get along better with everyone if Evie just lived with them. Which we can obviously tell Mel is uncomfortable by this, and she knows having Evie live with them would not fix anything, but because Evie's like right there, she can't just say no in front of her face like that. She's just like, oh, I'll think about it, you know. After school this day is when we see the scene from the beginning of the movie with the girls getting high and hitting each other, and Evie actually ends up hitting Tracy a little too hard, and she like falls over and becomes like unconscious for a little bit, and Mel like calls for the girls, so Tracy's like high out of her mind, so Evie's like panicking, trying to like cover up their like injuries and trying to like get Tracy in check, like, girl, you need to get yourself together. So they come out wearing these weird costumes, which clearly make Mel uncomfortable. She's just kind of looking at them like, are you okay? And that burp came out of nowhere. And she notices Tracy's busted lip, and she's just like, oh, it's nothing, I just fell. Which Mel knows is a lie. Anyway, some more time passes. It's not really said how much time passes, but some more time passes. And Tracy comes into class realizing that she was late on a project, and they're gonna contact her mom, and she realizes that she's kind of cooked and she gets extremely upset. When school is over, this is when things kind of start getting bad for Tracy, as if they weren't already bad enough. So Mel takes Tracy and Evie to Brooke's house, where we learn that Brooke had plastic surgery, and we get a pretty gruesome shot of Brooke's ears, because apparently they had to cut her ears off. But we see that they were sewn back on, and it's a pretty disgusting frame, and it's like, oh wow. But this is where Mel kind of decides, yeah, Evie, we're not going to adopt you, like, you're fine here. And this gets Evie upset, she starts crying, and the next day, Evie ditches Tracy, and this makes Tracy extremely upset. And because of this, she self-harms again later, and actually almost gets caught by Mel. And yeah, I feel her fear there. Some more time passes, and Tracy is told that she might get held back in 7th grade, and I didn't catch this the first, like, 2 times I watched it, but, like, it really sunk in. They are only in 7th grade, they're only 13, and all this is going down. It's like, it just baffles me every time. It's like, holy crap. Anyway, when Tracy gets home, she sees Brooke, Mel, and Evie all, like, sat in the living room, and she kind of knows that something is up. And this is when everything falls apart, and when the conclusion starts. So, apparently, the adults found the stash of drugs hidden in, I'm assuming, Tracy's room, since they were never really at Evie's place that much. And Evie turns on Tracy and pinned everything on Tracy, saying how much of a bad influence Tracy was on her, and pretty much everything that the girls did that was wrong. Evie flipped the story to make Tracy seem like she was the one in the wrong in all of these situations, which is so messed up. So this turns into a whole argument, and I'm preparing myself to explain this scene. Brooke grabs Brooke grabs Tracy and pulls up her sleeve and shows Mel that she cuts. Yeah. This is why I said that Evie seeing the blood stain on Tracy's shirt would come back hard later in the movie. Yeah. Which is just so messed up. You don't do that to somebody. Like, you just don't. Like, that's not even your kid. You had no right to just grab her like that and be like, see what she does to herself? Like, so Tracy gets upset and calls Brooke Frankenstein, which still makes me laugh because deserved. Honestly, so deserved. Because of that, Brooke calls Tracy a not so nice word.
This child isn't my business, you little cunt.
And this is when Mel is like, alright, y'all need to leave, like, get out of here. So they leave, and Tracy, like, is like, Mom, just, like, leave me alone. But Mel's like, nah, I'm not leaving you alone. So, you know, she's hugging her, trying to calm her down. And, you know, they end up sleeping together that night. And, the movie ends with Tracy riding a merry-go-round, and then she screams into the oblivion, and the movie just ends. And I kind of like this ending because it kind of leaves a lot of open interpretation of what happened. Like, did she continue her old habits? Did she repair her relationship with her family? Who knows? Something I will point out, though, which I didn't notice when I watched the movie, I was watching other people talking about the movie. In the beginning, the movie kind of had very vibrant colors, and as the movie progressed, the colors just got more dull and black, which really shows how deep Tracy was falling into this pit of self-destruction and doing all these god-awful things, you know? At the end, when Tracy's on the merry-go-round, it's very vibrant again, you know? She's wearing bright colors, she seems more happy, and I think this kind of implies that Tracy got over her bad habits over time and fixed herself, which I think is great, honestly. So now that the recap portion of the video is over, I want to share my thoughts on why I think this movie is so important and such a good representation of what teenage life is like. And before you say, oh, this movie was made in 2003, like it's a different time now. Yes, but that doesn't exactly change that there's still relevant things that have happened, that still happen to young teenagers. And especially in a time like this, people are so pressured into sticking with the crowd. You know, because as someone who kind of stands out because I don't dress in the preppy, clean girl look that all of the normal people are doing, I, have had my fair share of bullying and being judged because I don't dress or look like everybody else. And it's just kind of a sad reality that we live in, you know? If you don't fit in with the crowd, you are a victim of bullying and isolation. And and that's not to say that, you're never going to find people who are like you, because you will. You honestly will. You will find people who are like you in some ways, whether same interests, maybe same hobbies, maybe same way of dressing, same music taste, whatever it may be. You will find people who are like you, and that's great. You just have to remember that you don't have to fit in with everybody to be liked. You will find people who will appreciate you for being you. And I don't care if you call me corny for saying that, it's just the honest truth. Honestly, it's just so easy for people to fall in with the wrong crowd, you know? Drugs are a thing, alcohol is a thing. Even this movie was set in the early 2000s, it's not like drugs and alcohol have just vanished since then. They're still a thing, and there's still teenagers who are doing it. And I honestly think that because this movie was made by teenagers who were 13 at the time of writing, it's just makes it so much better, because it's like we really get to look into what life is like as a teenager, you know? I feel like because it's a different time now, there's so many older people who think that being a teenager is not that hard and we're just being over dramatic, but it really isn't. It's a completely different time, and being a teenager is so difficult because you have puberty and you have all these different mix of emotions going through you, and it's a really tough time of self-discovery. And it's like, it's really difficult, and it takes so much time to get through this awkward stage of our lives. And I just think that the movie does such a good job of showing how complex being a teenager is, you know? And I honestly think that more teenagers should be exposed to this movie and should watch it to show what not to do. Because no matter how hard being a teenager is, resorting to drugs and alcohol and smoking and all this other harmful behavior is just not a good thing. It's not. It's not going to help you. It may help you in the moment, but it's going to come back and it's going to slap you in the face later in life, and it's not going to be fun. The great thing about this movie is that I think it does a good job of showing how a person's environment can also contribute to acting out. Because we can see that Tracy doesn't exactly have a present father figure, and while it has become like an internet meme of fatherless behavior, it is a real thing. Being fatherless can have very negative effects on people, and can cause people to act out, especially as teenagers, Am I trying to excuse Tracy's behavior and water it down? Absolutely not. It is still not okay, But I can kind of understand some of what influenced her to do the things that she did. But again, I do not think it's okay, because again, resorting to drugs, alcohol, and all of this other stuff does not solve your problems. It really doesn't. I really do think Mel should have done more to try and help Tracy, but I will give Mel a little bit of benefit of the doubt, because Tracy was really good at making Mel feel guilty by using the fact that they were financially struggling and how Mel's boyfriend is not a good person, and all the other things to make Mel feel guilty and kind of leave her be. This is extremely messed up, and I do get how things like that can kind of make a person back off and be like, okay, sorry, you're in the right, I'm sorry. But with Mel being the adult, she should have known when to put her foot down and know that she's the adult, and she needs to protect her daughter from these things instead of just letting them consume her. But the ending was kind of satisfying in a way, because Tracy's issues were brought to light, and although Evie took no accountability and all the blame was placed on Tracy, I'm sure she was able to sort it all out with her mom, and I'm almost positive that Mel knows that everything Evie said was a lie. You know, because she knows that Tracy was a good kid before Evie came around and introduced her to drugs, alcohol, and sex. So it's like, so I'm confident that Tracy was able to sort things out with Mel and repair their relationship, which I think is why the ending was so good, because Tracy's issues were brought to light and she was able to work through them and realize, hey, this is not healthy. I should probably seek help. And it's a good thing, you know? Seeing the vibrant colors at the end implying that Tracy was able to free herself of all these awful things and be the kind of person that she wants to be instead of letting jealousy consume her. It's kind of heartwarming and wholesome in a way. Anyway, moral of the story: don't do drugs and don't let validation and jealousy consume your life, because it will ruin you. That pretty much wraps up my video today, and if you stuck around this long, I thank you a lot, and I want to make more content like this, so if you're interested, I would recommend you consider subscribing, because I like making fun content, and recently my content has not been very fun, but I do promise on improvement, because with videos like this, I feel like I'm improving the quality of my channel, and it just, yeah, but I am grateful for the support I have been getting, and I am super excited to continue on this journey, and yeah, so if you want to support a small creator so I can keep making videos like this, it would mean a lot to me. And also, don't forget to check out my candy shop. Link is in my bio, because I kind of just hope to make people happy with my creations, and it would mean a lot if you bought something. But of course, that's entirely up to you. But I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, afternoon, whatever, and I will hopefully see you again in the next video. Peace out.